I'm not lying to you, okay? I baited you. Technically, I am going to talk about Ludwig, just not in the sense of drama. I added the events part to the title because I feel like drama frogs would be mad. I know you will. I was one of you a long time ago. So, Ludwig Ogren is a streaming guy who was popular during the early 2020s, whose most famous moment is when he failed to crush a watermelon between his thighs. He's kind of like if Michael Scott from The Office and Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine had a baby together, and if that baby spoke Year 9 French and liked gaming. To the point of the video, Ludwig did these live streaming events and other shows on his channel, and I just wanted to go through them for a video and kind of just talk about YouTube by proxy. Think of this as a content overview and channel review, except I'm not going to review every video of his because that sounds painfully tedious. The main reason this video exists is because I initially wanted to talk about how during the Lots of Streamer Games, which is a sports live stream event Ludwig created, between each segment or like competition, there's like a sponsor for Red Bull during breaks because he's a Red Bull athlete or whatever, and there's some slow Ken Burns style fade in, fade out highlights of all the pictures you can find where Ludwig looks happy while he's holding a can of Red Bull. And I just found it really funny. It looks like a slideshow presentation someone would make for a wake. I wonder what intern's job it was to just find every instance of Happy Ludwig with a Red Bull and compile every photo of that. And then I realized talking about that would be like, what, a 5-second video? So here we are. We're going beyond the Red Bull athlete thing. Why are live stream events? I'll be honest here, for the longest time, I just never understood the appeal of live streams. I understood that people liked them because of the interaction with the streamer, but I just thought it was a bit creepy and weird to even watch a live stream for like some guy playing League of Legends for 4 hours in real time. It just wasn't something I really understood, like people who watch sports games. It wasn't until I started watching the Among Us videos boom during the 2020s that I really understood the excitement of watching a live stream. I watched a lot of YouTubers collaborate with streamers to play Among Us, and noticed this huge disparity in quality with YouTubers who streamed and live streamers who were part of the Twitch or Facebook or YouTube community. The streamers were just so much more entertaining, kept up the energy really well, they were able to improvise bits, they were interacting with their audience in a more fun and energizing way. They understood and took advantage of the medium of streaming better than YouTubers, who are used to having the privilege of re-recording or editing clips to make them funnier later. So that's when I realized that streaming is quite a different skill to YouTubing, and I fell in love with streaming content for a while. I converted from watching YouTube commentary to Among Us gameplay, then to Among Us VODs, and finally, to Among Us live streams. It's some pipeline, I tell you. And I kind of just watched these four for a while because it was dumb fun and it was the pandemic and I had no friends. Is it embarrassing to admit that I was really into the Amigops for a while? Whatever, I was a teenager. It's fine. That group didn't last long anyway. At least I didn't get into Dream SMP. I've heard it's a bit disillusioning to have grown up on it now. And while I know a lot of the Among Us live streamers kind of got sick of it, even during the most popular era of that game, I look back at this era pretty fondly, and it's honestly the last time I really felt like I was part of a big fan community online. Then again, I'm sure they weren't crying too hard about it. Most of them were averaging 60k viewers in those streams. And Among Us kind of led to the Rust server, which was another big Twitch event that a lot of people really loved and enjoyed. And then Minecraft got revamped, but that didn't last long. And now we're in the more decentralized era of Twitch streaming where everyone's splintered and older, and also some people got super famous in the background and Twitch now has its dark alter ego in the form of Kick. It's like a weird cinematic universe. We have newer faces like Cinna and Kai and Speed who have caught the attention of viewers who actually like going outside and seeing the sun once in a while. Now long tangent aside, as I grew more accustomed to the live streaming space, I quickly learned about these things called live streaming events. If you can't figure it out from the name, basically, they're live streams but with a higher production value and usually have more than one creator. It might just be a fancier podcast or a gaming tournament or, on rare occasions, full-blown productions akin to a reality TV show. Live streaming events have always interested me because in the same way a lot of YouTubers explore topics with a sort of amateur journalism vibe, live streaming events have a kind of amateur game show vibe. There's a lot of dead space, the camera lingers awkwardly, and there are a lot of inevitable tech issues. But these problems never really take away from how fun they are. The creators are also entertaining and unique in a way they normally can't be on their own stream, where they're by themselves and talking to the void, no offense chat. They're on their feet, they're active, there's always a gimmick, a goal, a competition. These events revitalize that feeling of watching TV shows like Survivor, Total Wipeout, or Flushed as a kid, where you felt distantly connected to the other people who are also watching the same show on the same channel at the same time. It's a feeling that's been lost thanks to streaming services and binging. I think live streaming events remind me a lot of what college humor is now as dropout TV, where having some knowledge of the cast who are involved in the events actually enhances the experience and lets you really engage with the content. It's a lot rarer for people to watch these live streams or pre-recorded TV shows online if you don't know the contestants nowadays, which I just find interesting. Particularly for younger generations, our focus is on the people rather than the gimmick of a game show, as if they're familiar characters whose actions we can predict. Like, doing a Survivor ripoff is nothing special, but if you know the cast and you know their personalities and interrelationships really well, there's something more meaningful about watching it. You can engage with it on a personal or emotional level. They can all rib on each other with inside jokes and have this jovial camaraderie for the episode that's unique to it. Also, a lot of these events do require some streaming knowledge, so you also feel there's a barrier entry that you've passed through as a streaming viewer, and it feels exclusive. And that brings me to Ludwig's events, the main topic of the video. I didn't forget about it, don't worry. I don't think I'm going to cover every single live streaming event he's ever done, but I'm just going to talk about the ones that interest me, in no particular order. It's chaos from here on. So let's go on a journey through the world of Ludwig events. Mogul Money. Mogul Money is one of the first popular shows Ludwig ever did and is very inspired by Jeopardy. Actually, inspired might be a little generous. If you're not familiar with Jeopardy, it's this very complicated American show that I still don't fully understand, and strangely enough, learned about first from a Big Nate comic. We don't got Jeopardy in Down Under. I've never seen an episode of this game show, but from my understanding, there's a series of topics with rows of answers where you can win from $200 to $1,000. And as a contestant, you pick one of these and have to find the question to the answer they give you. If the answer is like a police procedural from the 2000s featuring actor Simon Baker as consultant Patrick Jane, you would say, "What is The Mentalist?" and earn the number of points it was worth on the board. See, even as I explain it, it's so weirdly confusing. Why is it like that? The difference with Mogul Money is that it is based, as aforementioned, in Twitch culture. There's a topic in every episode which is about guessing Twitch emotes called "What's That Pokemon?" So, yeah, I don't think non-Twitch people would know what that's about. The funny thing about this show is that it looks quite professional with the podiums, the motion graphics, the fancy royal purple and gold design and everything. But almost everything else is very unhinged and unprofessional. The editing comes to mind because what is this? It feels like the fast-paced editing that Quackity did for the Discord's Got Talent episodes. There are just random shots where everyone's faces are distorted, or it fast zooms to terrible quality, or it does whatever the hell this is. I can't even be a hater about it because it's so committed to this editing style throughout all the episodes. I think even up until the finale. This show, dares you to mock it, or call it cringe. Another thing about Mogul Money is that most of the contestants don't care very much, because, it's Ludwig hosting, so they'll very happily try not to win by absolutely torpedoing their points. Many of them go to negative numbers, and sometimes people win by comparing negative numbers. It's funny because this show made me so desensitized to players going to negative numbers that I forgot that in usual game shows they just stop at 0. Really, the least professional game show one could ever create is one where there are a bunch of basement-dwelling streamers playing. Additionally, the contestants' banter with Ludwig is absolutely crucial to the entertainment value of this show, more so than even the content, personally. I like to think that the concept of Mogul Money was just, let's ensure nobody takes this seriously except Ludwig, because that's pretty much what it became. Time to make this white boy just really, really regret doing this. Would have loved to see the pitch meeting for it. Alright, so first round, players are given a board like Jeopardy and choose from the aforementioned row of topics and answer the questions, battle it out. Some players will have a better affinity for certain topics, others won't. The questions are uniquely tailored to the players themselves and the kind of content they do for their respective channels. For example, these three make gaming content, so they get a lot of gaming questions. And these three are in a podcast together, so they get questions relating to their podcast. Or Ludwig, because Ludwig's also in the podcast. There's also a daily double where one person has a chance for double points if they answer a question, and these are accompanied with a cameo from another streamer. I know, isn't that so cool? Mogul Money's second round is just the first round again, except this time for double the points. This is for really terrible players to have a chance at catching up, and also I think this is the normal Jeopardy? I really need to find out what the rules are for that. There is a final Jeopardy question before players go into the third round, which involves betting a certain number of points and then answering a question, and depending on if you win or lose the amount of points you wagered. If you try to Hunger Games it won't work because they tried that in the first episode, and then President Snow made sure no one would ever try it again. The players with the highest scores from round 2 move on to the third round, where we get our second ripoff in the form of Family Feud. The loser who doesn't make it to the third round also gets dead batteries as their prize. Or I think it's just batteries. In round 3, we have survey questions asked to, I believe, Ludwig's chat, that the contestants need to figure out what the most popular answers are from them. He isn't clear if it's his chat, he just says, Twitch chat. as if he managed to combine every Twitch chat in existence. And the winner gets a cool $5,000. I'm sure these people definitely need it. The loser, on the other hand, gets a custom bidet, which, despite seeing every episode of the show, still doesn't make sense to me. What on earth is a custom bidet? Is it perfectly shaped for your ass? Seems very exclusive. What, can your partner not use it then? Or do you get to put a design on it? Can I make a Alvin and the Chipmunks themed bidet? What person would ever want that? I mean, I kind of want that, and maybe only me. Personally, I think Mogul Money was one of Ludwig's best ventures, but I also get why it's not still around and ended with a fun live show. Like Real Jeopardy, it gets very repetitive, and streamers are elusive cryptids. They're just not very reliable as, say, contestants for game shows, where they really want to show up to win a prize and actually need the money, or actors who are being paid to be there. 5K is so meaningless to XQC that he might as well have stayed home and played COD for 30 minutes and earned 10 times that. There's also a limited number of streamers you can have to show up to Mogul Money, and the more outside of Ludwig's circle they get, the less reliable they are to show up or be entertaining or appropriate enough for the show. And getting streamers to come back again and again also gets quite repetitive. I think Mogul Money rested at its peak, another one of Ludwig's projects that will be remembered fondly by a small pocket of his fans in the internet. There is no rhyme or reason to the events I've picked, by the way. Don't think too hard about the fact both of these are game shows. The next will be quite unrelated. Unpaid Intern is another rip-off game show that I haven't seen the original version of, called Taskmaster. I've never seen a single episode of Taskmaster before, so in my head, Ludwig came up with every aspect of this one. Unpaid Intern has 4 streamers come in as unpaid interns who complete tasks to be chosen for the incredible prize of working with Ludwig. So, not as good of an incentive as Mogul Money, clearly. Most people would probably just take the dead batteries. Stans is also just kind of there in the background. I think he's a streamer friend of Ludwig, but in all honesty, I always mixed him up with Atrioc, even though they're completely different. Don't ask me how. I'll catch a Stans video every now and then, like maybe yearly. Most of the time he's chilling there and gets bullied at every opportunity, even though he does 90% of the work that Ludwig's meant to be doing in the show. Contestants earn points based on who did best in the challenge, and yeah, it's just a who has the most points kind of thing. Sometimes they're a bit loosey-goosey with it, where you can score an extra point for going above and beyond according to Ludwig, but that's about it. I think Unpaid Intern is a good show, but I can't really say it's better or worse than Mogul Money, because they're both trying to accomplish different things. I'm bringing this up because Mogul Money and Unpaid Intern are very often compared due to both being game show ripoffs featuring a hosting Ludwig. Personally, I prefer Mogul Money, but I think Unpaid Intern has a lot more variety and doesn't feel so Ludwig-centered, which some might argue is a plus. I will admit that Mogul Money was kind of pinned down by its formula with a lot of focus on trivia and niche fandoms. Unpaid Intern is just kind of like job, then job, and then job. There's points involved, but there's no whittling down contestants or anything like that. It's not as competitive as Mogul Money. I think that might be the main reason why I prefer Mogul Money to Unpaid Intern. I really loved the competition aspect of it, for there to be some kind of dramatic story or underdog to root for. Unpaid Intern, on the other hand, is a lot more relaxed, since everyone kind of sits around and talks about the jobs they'd already filmed and done. There's so many things to do in the task sections that when the streamers are kind of just sitting around talking through flashbacks, it's just kind of just a little boring, but that's my personal opinion. Like, I talked more about Mogul Money than I did about Unpaid Intern in this section, but oh well. Dodgeball Creator Tournament. This was a standout event about 2 years ago that everyone really loved except Ludwig himself. It became kind of a hit even outside of the streamer community. I even saw it reach the webtoon circle. I don't know how that happened, but I'm not complaining. The tournament is not particularly complicated. There's a lot of streamers competing in this one, and they're divided up into teams according to what platform they stream on. The YouTubers, the Twitchers, the Kickers, the Facebookers, chessboxingers, and the podcasters. There's probably a better way to separate the teams, but sure. The YouTubers were kind of the main characters of this tournament since Ludwig was playing with them, and also the YouTube team were considered the underdogs because they were pretty weak. You know how I was talking about that Among Us boom at the beginning of the video? A lot of people from that era returned here, which I think was why so many people came by to watch it. It was a huge collection of streamers all playing in a very simple tournament. There was nothing fancy or high stakes about it, it was non-risky dodgeball. There was a tournament, but most people were following the YouTubers team, and it was kind of exciting to see people dive and catch and throw. Somehow there was some nice standout moments, especially from the YouTube team, even though apparently they only had 2 practice sessions and they had Lily on their team. I mean, Lily is just not a sports person, she's a music person. I mean, Lily is just not a sports person. Like, she's musically talented. She's talented in other areas. I'm quoting Ludwig. I don't think she's terrible at sports. I'm digging my own grave. Also, because of the dodgeball tournament, we get this photo, which I think went viral online for basically everyone. Is Twitter X at this point? Has it been like this for 3 years now? The reason Ludwig wasn't fond of the dodgeball tournament's success, from his own words, was that it was not as intricately planned, which I understand. Something like chessboxing requires so much preparation and coordination, and to have it all upstaged by a low-stakes dodgeball tournament is kind of disappointing. But I think Twitch communities are attracted to authenticity, to average Joes, and it's kind of hard to convert those same audiences to something as grand and epic as his bigger events. Streamer games. So my favorite Ludwig event was definitely streamer games. It's not really much of a competition. Was that a pun? I don't think that was a pun. I definitely didn't expect this when I was watching it live because I'm the least athletic person I know, and I've never had even an inkling of interest in sports. But for some reason, there was something near majestic and fascinating about watching a bunch of multimillionaires dance their way through a terrible gymnastics routine or try to pull a tablecloth off a dinner table without disturbing its contents. The entire event reads to me like an extension or upgrade to the Dodgeball Creator Clash. There are not only more teams, but they're more balanced. There's more events, all the faces you remember are there, there's a bigger field, and the stakes are way higher than they were before because there are more streamers. It's also a 3-day event, meaning if there's a streamer you didn't see on the first day, you'll probably see them on the second or third. We have 8 teams this time with OTK, FaZe Clan, Offline TV, YouTube, Twitch, Red Bull, yes, that is a team here, podcasting, and 100 Thieves. It's a weird mix of platforms, one company, and whatever podcasting is. Facebook's also no longer here, replaced by Red Bull. Every team kind of sends their best for whatever their event is, and they compete. It's pretty straightforward. Most people are judged by how well they did, the judges are people who are pros in that field, etc. This is really like a professional sports carnival thing, except the people competing are nobodies, outside of the fact that they're famous online. There's a bit of whimsy here with the events not being actual measurements of strength or athleticism. It's taking itself half seriously, which is a pretty common theme with Ludwig events. Foundationally, they are professional. You can tell with all the cameras and fancy lighting that there's a lot of money going into production, but the people being filmed are kind of just doing weird and average things. There are a lot of key viral moments that happened here, which I find pointless to rehash since Ludwig already went through them in his own video, but ultimately, I think this was just a really good show. There's not much else to say. It's doing what it did really well, save for the numerous sponsors, but you know, that's inevitable with most sports things anyway. Everyone wears brands on their uniforms like medals of honor. Maybe I just find something funny about people who are terminally online and show themselves to be terminally online, touching grass for a few days. Does that sound mean? I don't want to sound mean. I mean, I watched all the VODs, I did love it. From what I remember, Ludwig lost money on this, so I doubt we'll get something like this again, but who knows? We'll get streamer games this year, or the year after maybe. Or we'll get something small, like a paintball tournament, or capture the flag, or hide and seek. Or maybe even tag would be fun. I better get paid for my groundbreaking ideas. Chessboxing. I feel like if I didn't add a section about chessboxing, Ludwigians will be mad at me, so here it is. I don't have anything to say about chessboxing because I just didn't care for it very much. I'm sorry. The event is just not something I'm really interested in. I'll gladly hand this topic to someone who wants to explore it in greater detail because they'll definitely do a better job of it, and I haven't really seen much of it myself. Toast and Smollett was fine. It was what I expected and got. Whoa. Chess and boxing. The only thing I really remember with chessboxing that I cared about was when Ludwig had like a slapping competition with Connor. And it looked really painful. I'm not a huge fan of violence, I think. Reminds me that we're all meat puppets at the end of the day. Also, this is just an aside, but someone watching this video, do you remember when the Odd Ones Out talked about how cool chessboxing was years before the Ludwig event? It's just funny that he also predicted how popular boxing would become with content creators. League week. I don't play League. I just watched Ludwig and Connor talk, and then I'd tab out every time they played League. Yeah. A friend of mine who's a League player watched it, and he said it was cool, so yeah, the therapist thing was funny. Bro versus bro. Important thing to note was that this wasn't Ludwig's idea, but Cutie Cinderella's idea originally. Just thought I'd mention that because I think a lot of people forget that. Bro vs. Bro is a series that Ludwig used to do on his channel where he'd compete against one of his friends in a series of games and challenges, and they'd see who'll win. There also is usually a bet beforehand, so there's some fun stakes going into the challenge as well. For a bit, I remember Ludwig and his yard friends did this thing called Bro vs. Pro, but I think they gave up on it. I'm not sure. I'm still waiting on that D&D campaign they said they'd make. Anyway, Bro vs. Bro was a really fun show. And the games people play are pretty balanced, since each person gets to pick games they personally excel at, and some neutral games that don't have a bias to either player. The best is Germa's, because Germa is Germa. Flats is also very entertaining, especially this part where they do Wii bowling, and he starts crashing out because the game is too easy. Like, I think that's the most genuinely mad I've ever seen Schlatt.
It's a solved game. Fuck. Dude, I'm throwing.
It's a solved game, Ludwig! It's a solved game!
Also, Syconis is just generally really funny because you can tell that Ludwig is trying really hard to beat him throughout. I don't think I've ever seen him as competitive as when he was trying to beat him in Trackmania. Also, this is just a guilty pleasure of mine, and a little unrelated. Sometimes I love searching up videos of Tina Kitten just beating up people in speedrunners. If you're a Tina Kitten fan, can you please post more of them? I really like them. Do it for me and only me. Not much else to say. Bro vs. Bro is definitely not like a live streaming event, but it's one of the series that makes up Ludwig's channel. I remember it fondly. Tip to Tip. Tip to Tip is a bit more of an outlier from everything I've listed so far, but I think it still deserves its own subsection because it's the most popular Ludwig thing in recent memory. It's not live, but it kind of was live because it was being uploaded as they were still doing it. It kind of doesn't count, and does. Shut up, this is my video. Tip to Tip is a travel show featuring Ludwig and Michael Reeves as they travel from the lowest point in Japan to the uppermost point in Japan on their motorbikes without any maps, translation apps, or contact with anyone except the creepy child kidnapping looking van that follows them at a distance. I'm personally not a huge fan of travel content. It's not something I actively seek out. The only reason I got through this whole thing is purely because of these two, and the episodes being so short and sweet and progressional. In classic Ludwig fashion though, it's extremely difficult to watch these episodes in the proper order because they aren't numbered in the titles. Every title is just clickbait, so it's annoyingly frustrating to click through. I guess if you're on autoplay, it's not a big deal, but if you want to watch a single episode, it's a bit annoying. I know you're a big jet lag fan, Ludwig. Number the episodes, dude, come on. It's basic YouTube. TikTok coming from my tiny ass 2K channel. Anyway, that's my one criticism of this series. Outside of that, it's pretty damn entertaining. I sometimes go back and binge watch it every now and then when I want to comfort watch. I think what sets Tip to Tip apart is that there's a freedom to it that a lot of other travel content doesn't have. It doesn't feel like marketing because it doesn't have any sponsors backing it. There's no artificiality to the places they go. It's very grounded and down to earth. They will tell you exactly how they feel about a particular place or meal or people or weather without playing anything up for the camera. Every episode has a goal or goals, and sometimes they won't have a nice day. Sometimes it'll be terrible and they'll miss out on sumo because Ludwig forgot to book tickets. Other days they'll go to a motorbike themed restaurant or make a croque monsieur in front of Mount Fuji. I keep trying to say Eiffel Tower, but it's Mount Fuji. It's human in a way a lot of other content on YouTube isn't. The editing is also extremely simple. There's not much in the way of fancy motion graphics or stylized aesthetics. It's just cuts and captions from the editors themselves as they catalog their journey. Beating a dead horse here, but it adds to the authenticity. It's like you're watching home video of two guys who love each other making their way up to their climax together. It's almost as beautiful as gay porn. Another advantage that Tip to Tip has is also that it released episodes daily for a few weeks. So people would keep up all together and a pseudo community formed around it. Ludwig fans are quite loyal, so they obviously showed up. But I think Michael drew in a lot of his fans and just general fans. Normies, if you will. I get the feeling that this might be the direction Ludwig's content will go soon, into plain old anti-corporate simplicity. A lot of the events are big and professional, but as much as I do enjoy those, I will always find it easier to watch two guys cruising on motorbikes than a massive chessboxing event with blinding lights. My final thoughts. So this video was originally going to go into Cutie Cinderella events, but I decided I might as well talk about the golden boy of Twitch before he becomes the golden man of Twitch and hits his 30s and ages out. Was that too mean? I feel like that was too mean. He's probably not gonna watch this, it's fine. It's our little secret. I'm very fond of Ludwig's videos, and I've consumed a lot of it over the years. It's weird to say it, but I think he became my replacement PewDiePie, kind of. I used to watch PewDiePie religiously when I was little. He was one of my top YouTubers when I was in high school. Definitely not anymore. So that devotion kind of carried over to Ludwig, save for the Pokemon and Mario Kart stuff that I really don't care much for. Otherwise, I'm usually keeping up with whatever minuscule drama he's gotten into that week, or whatever story he has to share about meeting some famous person in LA, or the many streamer parties and things he goes to. Oh, also the playlist streams. I used to watch them so much, I would love it if he brought them back. And that one Jump King video. Maybe I just like anything to do with music. I see Ludwig as a very hard work kind of guy. He's a bit like Mr. Beast in the sense that he's very invested in the analytics aspect of YouTube, in grinding his way to the top. Does that sound weird? I hope that doesn't come off as weird, but you get my point. He's very dedicated to structure in how he uploads his videos and creates content. Like, there was a period of time where he uploaded a video every single day just to farm engagement, until he decided even that was too much for him because the quality was so bad. I'm very different to him. I don't think I have the chutzpah to commit to a schedule or structure like that. Like, honestly, not a lot of people do. Ludwig is unique like that. I mean, outside of Jimmy, but I think Ludwig isn't as consumed to working his way up the ladder. He's motivated to get bigger numbers, more engagement, that kind of thing. But unlike a lot of other YouTubers, it's not really motivated by greed or just wanting the line on a graph to go up. Well, it is a little bit of that. Ludwig's ultimate goal in chasing the algorithm is to build the money required to create the projects he wants to create, to make these grand events or travel shows. An entrepreneur? It's probably the right word, but it just sounds so professional for Ludwig of all people. At the core of it, he just really wants to entertain people, to bring them out of their shell and enjoy a few moments with him and his friends. He's able to perfectly keep a line between his personal and content creator life. And I think inadvertently, he's educated a lot of viewers to have a healthy relationship with the people they follow online. I think the difference between the events he makes and the ones Cutie makes is that he's usually invested in audience experience, while Cuties are focused on the people who are with her on her shows and their experience with it. And if the audience is there, they're just there. I'm not going to argue which is better or worse, and this might not even be an accurate assessment, but that's generally what I've found to be the case. Ultimately, my ranting aside, I'm not really sure how long we'll have these huge Ludwig events and game shows. It's just been a little while without them. I don't know if we'll get anything more than gaming tournaments for a while. I mean, he'll probably come back. He's like William Afton in that sense. Most of the time watching Ludwig is like going fishing and getting the fish you wanted, and every now and then you get a pearl that'll keep you going for a month. Does that metaphor make sense? I don't think that made sense. We need a metaphor revisionist. I think to non-Ludwig fans, he just kind of shows up in mainstream discourse randomly before slinking away back into whatever platform he wants to be a part of. So, everything I wanted to talk about. Think of this as a two-parter, because I might talk about Cutie events at some point too. I actually find Cutie's events are a lot more interesting to talk about than Ludwig's. No offense, Ludwig. I'm glad you watched my video, I guess. I've been sick for the past few days, so hopefully you don't catch my flu. Also, I like to tailor my sprites to my videos. I don't know if I have a lot of crossover viewers, like viewers who watch me regardless of topic or content, but you probably noticed that I like to do that. And I hate that the best idea I had to tailor this to a Ludwig theme was just wearing his merch. Like, that sucks, right? I feel like I'm wearing an ad. I feel gross. I'm never gonna be able to do sponsorships if this channel blows up. At least I won't accidentally end up being Honey's biggest fan ever. Anyway, yeah, video done. It would be helpful if you subscribe and Patreon and all that junk because I'm not monetized right now. The only thing keeping me going financially is, that. I will see you all later then. Bye!
Solo sogno l'orizzonte, mancan le parole. Sì, lo so che non c'è luce in una stanza quando manca il sole. Se non ci sei tu con me. Sulle finestre mostra tutti il mio cuore che